so happy to have you and to welcome you to the first day of the Spiritpreneurship Summit. And if you have seen what I've been talking about, it's my very first one. And it's going to be 5 days where we introduce wonderful speakers, incredible stories, and just insight that I can even describe in one word. You have to watch them. And today I will first show you videos of Leah Picard and Trish Taylor, and you will just get an idea of how important it is to know yourself, to know where you come from and come in. But before I even get into where they come from or a little bit more about how I got in touch with them, is for me to see and introduce you more about like what was the Spiritpreneurship idea behind it and how it all came together. So it was a silent retreat that I did, semi-silent retreat that I did in at the end of May, and the host, the person that I've attended it with, was Jeff Carrera, who's also going to be speaking on day 4 on spiritual awakening. And I contacted him. I spoke to him previously, but I contacted him once again because I felt like there was something more I wanted to do for a community, for my mission, and just going out into the world. And so what I realized that my mission, so I teach mindfulness in our everyday lives. How can we implement mindfulness into our days from waking up into the morning to when we go to sleep? And a year ago it started, and over that year I was just tapping into different places is to figure out what is really my true mission and where can I give most an impact on. And it only happened a couple weeks ago where I really had the definite idea of where I want to come in and where it entails the entire package of my mission. And this is where I'm going to go with this summit. And to be honest, before this summit started, as I said, I only came to this 2 weeks ago, so to this final idea, but the summit has started in July. We started with recording. So some of the content, the way the people described certain situation in relationship to the summit might be slightly different, but it still comes down to the message. And the message is that if you are a parent, you don't only carry the title of being a parent. And there are multiple hats that you wear, from being your individual self, from being a partner with somebody, and from being a friend, a sister or brother, aunt, or other many descriptions, including in your everyday work that you do. And even though we're talking about entrepreneurship doesn't necessarily just mean a business that you created. You are the business. So the standpoint that I've had already starting at the beginning of the summit was this personal business. Our business, as I said, from the morning when we wake up to the time we go to bed, it's a business that we are taking care of. It might not only be the business of work, that's literally speaking business, but it's the business that we go about it on the everyday. And this is where this summit is really going to give you the idea that if you feel stressed out, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel that you just can't do one other thing in life, they will let you know that, yes, we all feel that way. But there is a way how we embrace all those feelings, where we figure out a way to just be in the moment. And by acknowledging the moment, being present, everything becomes less important. The conversations in our head, the perception of how it should be, the expectations, the perfectionism, all these titles additional to our literal titles of being an individual and the different hats that we wear. It's also these expectations that we put on ourselves to portray a certain being that we are, a certain feel to who we are. And it really is kind of important to not forget our individuality. All day, every day, we're giving everything we have to everybody around us. And most of the time, we forget about ourselves. And what I realized is that by being more in touch with yourself, you're able to give more to other people without feeling burnt out, without feeling stressed out, without feeling overwhelmed. You really become more in tune with the intentions that you have for that particular task, for that particular activity, for this attention you're going to give in that particular moment. And in my own life, I notice it all the time. As soon as there is multiple things happening at the same time, I cannot be in the present because I'm feeling overwhelmed with wanting to do what I need to do, wanted to do what I need to do for other people like my son or my husband or friends around me. And then all of a sudden we have this 1 minute in our lives that requires us to do 10 multiple things. So multitasking, great way to talk about it, right? It's like how many of us don't multitask? I mean, nobody could raise their hands here. So everybody's multitasking. And it's not a problem to multitask. It's more of like, when do we multitask? Do we want to multitask when we're having conversations with our families or friends? Is that really sensible to do that? Or do we want to maybe put a certain time for certain things? And this makes me think about Trish Taylor's conversation about, she's going to talk about taking down the walls inside your home and making more space. And so the funny thing is, yes, we want to, in a way, compartmentalize where we want to be and where our intention is, but we also want to make sure that it's kind of more than that. And it's embracing it all. And so just because I'm paying attention right now doesn't mean I can pay attention to something else a little later. Well, this is just a little bit of insight of what these talks are all about, what these people can bring in. And I really just wanted to have this conversation and open up with the summit to give you different perspectives of people. Some people experienced it through their different jobs that they have. Some people experienced it through different ways of handling their everydays, and some really felt or went through some health issues that we can't even stop talking about it. And so for some of us who have maybe not experienced some health troubles, they might be like, oh my God, I can't believe, you came out of it this way. And Leah Picard is one of them. And there will be more people during this week that health has been one of the major aspects that made them change the way they live. And I cannot stress enough how many of us probably have come close to just not knowing what to do anymore. This pandemic, we cannot ignore, is here and is still in our lives and probably will be in our lives for a very long time. I talked about my son going back to school last week. I talked about transitions when I came back from Switzerland. And it's interesting because these transitions, everywhere I look, all these newsletters that I get from other places talk about transitions. And it is so important for us to understand that we cannot escape transitions. But what we can do is to pause, to take a time out. And if for those who receive the newsletter from me, it's leaving your stresses on the back seat and just be more in tune with right now, in this present moment, to just touch base with what is really happening. Why do I feel anxious and stressed and overwhelmed and about this uncertainty going on? What is it that this COVID has made me change the way I think, or maybe caused me to reflect and say like, oh my God, like I can't do this any longer. What if this is going to be much longer? How can we get out of this? By watching these videos that I really think are so monumental for this time, that you will see that even if somebody's talking about their health issues a couple years ago, you might have yourself experienced health issues. Maybe your family has experienced health issues, but it's not permanent. It's impermanent. And so I want you to just really look into this, get a better idea on how do you connect with these situations. Open your eyes and hearts to see how could we shift? How could we transition into something different? How could we look at things differently? And just to listen to these stories, look at your own lives, look at your stories, because when I listen to their stories and I look at my own story, we all have a story. But for some of us, they just don't think that their story is relevant. But if we do write them down, if we do start to break down all these obstacles that we overcome, we actually realize how much we have accomplished till today. And that a pandemic like this year's pandemic should not bring us down, take us down. It's actually giving us more reasons to move on forward. And today's day is about lifestyle. And why did I pick lifestyle? I picked lifestyle because, one, our life has changed. Our lifestyle has changed. We went from working with other people in the same space to being separated from all of our coworkers and working in our own homes, but being reconnected with the people in our lives. And so what is so interesting to me is that there just been so many interesting connections happening for me. So that change of being connected with people through social media, through text messages, through phone calls, through FaceTime, that has increased, of course. You also have connected to different kinds of people. And this is definitely why I created this summit. I have noticed throughout this pandemic, these amazing connections I've built. The craziest thing about this summit and the speakers is that there is probably a third of them that is connected to me and that I got to know them and really care for them through Instagram. I mean, I cannot stress to you how crazy that sounds to me, because if you would ask me 2 years ago, Instagram and Facebook is not a place I want to be or want to go. But one thing I definitely realized is that with the situation we're in, with this lifestyle change that we have come in, there is no other way. And it is to proven to me that we can create these connections. We can create, even through same, and it doesn't feel the same, and yes, it's not the same at all, but it doesn't take away on how it feels. Because there is one person, I will talk about her when she comes up, that I've met through Instagram and have finally met in person, social distance though, and it was just an incredible experience. And that's why I wanted to create this day of lifestyle, because these two speakers, Trish Taylor and Leah Picard, they both I met through Instagram, through a challenge they created. There's more about this later. There's actually tomorrow they're coming back for a soul sisterhood discussion, and how important that part is. And it's just incredible. There's another bunch of speakers that I've got to know through the Align Center that I was visiting in person, but got connected more through their weekly calls they created in the pandemic to support one another. And there's probably four people at least that came through from there. And it is just interesting really that these people that grew on me, and their insights just have made me look at life even more in depth. To really have them on here, I'm so excited for them to be here. So this is my introduction for today. If anybody was here to ask any questions, feel free. I'll be here tomorrow again at 10 o'clock for about the same amount of time. And I can't wait for you to see it. And one highlight I have for today is at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I have Eva Espinoza that I also met through Facebook, through social media. It was through one of the speakers group, the Superhumans Network, and actually he's speaking on Superpower on Friday, which is Tobias Barnes Hofmeister. And he created this group, and because I believe in the work that he does, I was there. And what's so fun is that I just posted something and another person commented, and I was asking about her mission, and she then said, hey, that she is Eva. She was like, oh, I applied for some TED thing. And so I'm like, oh, me too. And so we connected, we talked, and it was just a great connection right from the beginning. And so when she told me about her mission related to hairstyle and how it defines our lives and how it can be part of a holistic healing, I needed her to be on here as well. So she's going to be here live, just as I did this one. She will be here as well. We talking about the two things, about the hair and involvement of holistic healing, and that's going to be an introduction to holistic healing that's coming up tomorrow, where we have the talks about nature and nurture, where we have Cindy Olson, who is an environmental teacher, and we have Laura Preskin, who owns activewear company, the Yafa Activewear, and she's going to talk about how she found nurture in her own company and what she built with it, which I really am interested for you to see, because I thought it was just so incredible, interesting how she created community. And then we have the sisterhoods. They come on and talk about how important that is to come together as women. And if you're a man, still watch it. I'm sure there is something for the same thing for brotherhood. So don't shy away from listening to them. And we also have a live tomorrow, which I'm going to introduce more tomorrow. So not to overwhelm you too much. Today is this intro, of course. I'll talk a little bit more. I talked now a little more about what the summit is, where it came from. And then tomorrow, I'll probably talk a little bit more about Eva's conversation, because we haven't heard much from her, and unless you watched it. And so, yeah, very excited for you to get to see this, and can't wait to hear your feedback. Please let me know how much you enjoyed the videos, or what you were missing, or what else you wanted to know. If you have any questions to the speakers, let me know as well. I can share them with them, and we'll see where it goes from here. So enjoy, and thank you for watching. See you soon.